Have you ever felt like your life doesn't make sense? Like your past is too messy or your path too uncertain to ever mean something? Then the story of Moses is exactly what you need to hear. Because Moses didn't start as a hero. He wasn't looking for greatness. He didn't volunteer to lead a nation. He was just a man who ran from his past, until God called him from the middle of a burning bush. This is the powerful journey of Moses. From a baby floating on the Nile to a man standing barefoot on holy ground. From the palace of Pharaoh to the lonely deserts of Midian. And finally, back to Egypt with a divine assignment. Let's go deep into the story of Moses. How God prepares ordinary people for extraordinary purpose. The story of Moses begins in the book of Exodus, not Genesis, but it's deeply connected to Genesis. Back in Genesis, God promised Abraham that his descendants would become a great nation. Fast forward 400 years, and those descendants, the Israelites, had grown into a vast people living in Egypt. But now, things had changed. A new Pharaoh had come to power who didn't know Joseph or the story of how the Israelites came to Egypt in the first place. All Pharaoh saw was a growing foreign population, strong, united, and potentially dangerous. So Pharaoh did what fearful leaders often do. He enslaved the Israelites, and when they kept growing, he gave a chilling order. Every Hebrew baby boy must be thrown into the Nile. It was a time of terror and heartbreak for Israelite families. But in the midst of that darkness, one Hebrew couple from the tribe of Levi gave birth to a baby boy. Something about him stood out. The Bible says he was no ordinary child. His mother, Jochebed, hid him for 3 months. But when she couldn't hide him anymore, she made a bold choice. She wove a basket out of reeds, coated it with tar, and placed her baby inside. Then she set it afloat on the Nile River, entrusting his future to God. And right there, floating on the very river meant to destroy him, Moses was rescued by none other than Pharaoh's own daughter. She knew he was a Hebrew baby. She could have turned him in. But instead, her heart was moved. She decided to adopt him. And in an incredible twist of God's providence, she hired Moses' own biological mother to nurse him. So Moses grew up knowing both worlds, his Hebrew roots and his Egyptian privilege. He was a child of two identities, and that tension would follow him into adulthood. Moses was raised in Pharaoh's palace. He received the best education. He had comfort, wealth, status, all the things most people dream of. But Moses never forgot who he really was. He saw how the Israelites, his people, were treated. He saw the beatings, the forced labor, the hopelessness. And one day, it became too much. He saw an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew slave. Moses stepped in, maybe thinking he could be a protector, maybe thinking his influence could make a difference. But it got out of control. Moses killed the Egyptian and buried the body in the sand. The next day, he tried to break up a fight between two Hebrews, thinking they'd see him as a friend. But they didn't. One of them snapped back, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian?" Suddenly, Moses realized everything had unraveled. Word had spread. Pharaoh found out and wanted him dead. So Moses ran. He fled Egypt and left everything behind: his royal status, his mission, his identity. He ran far into the wilderness. Moses ended up in a land called Midian. He was tired, alone, and likely full of regret. But even in the wilderness, God was writing a new chapter. Moses stopped at a well, where he helped a group of young women being bullied by local shepherds. They ran home and told their father, a priest named Jethro. Jethro welcomed Moses, gave him a place to stay, and eventually gave him his daughter, Zipporah, as a wife. Moses settled into a quiet, rural life. He had a son. He became a shepherd. And for 40 years, that's how it stayed. The former prince became a desert wanderer, tending sheep in silence. No headlines, no miracles, no audience. But in that quiet place, God was working on Moses' heart. He was teaching him humility, teaching him patience, preparing him for something far greater than Moses could imagine. Moses was tending sheep in the wilderness near Mount Horeb when he saw something strange. A bush in fire, but not burning up. As he came closer to investigate, a voice called out from the flames, "Moses! "Moses!" He answered, "Here I am." And the voice said, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." This was no ordinary fire. It was God, and he had a mission for Moses. "I have seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cry. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of slavery." But Moses wasn't so sure. "Who am I to go to Pharaoh?" God replied, "I will be with you." Still, Moses had questions. What if they don't believe me? What if they say, "The Lord didn't appear to you"? So God gave him signs proof of divine power. He told Moses, "What's that in your hand?" "A staff," Moses said. "Throw it on the ground." Moses obeyed, and the staff became a snake. He jumped back in fear. Then God said, "Reach out your hand and take it by the tail." He did, and it turned back into a staff. Then God gave him another sign. "Put your hand inside your cloak." When Moses pulled it out, it was leprous, white as snow. "Put it back in." He did, and it was healed, just like before. And God said, "If they don't believe the first sign, they may believe the second. And if they still won't listen, take water from the Nile and pour it on the ground. It will turn to blood." Still, Moses hesitated. "Lord, I'm not a good speaker. I've never been. I'm slow of speech and tongue." But God reminded him, "Who gave humans their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and teach you what to say." Even then Moses pleaded, "Please send someone else." So God allowed Aaron, Moses' brother, to help. "He speaks well. I will speak to you, and you will speak to him, and he will speak to the people." God gave Moses the staff. He gave him signs. He gave him a partner. And most of all, he gave him a promise: "I will be with you." And with that, the shepherd set out to confront a king. At last, Moses said yes. He returned to Jethro and asked for permission to visit his people in Egypt. Jethro blessed him and sent him on his way. Moses packed up his family, took his staff, and started the long journey back. Not as a fugitive this time, but as a man on a mission. God continued to speak to him along the way. He reminded Moses that the ones who sought his life were now gone. He gave Moses clear instructions for what to say and do. Aaron came out to meet him, just as God said. The two brothers reunited, and Moses shared everything God had revealed to him. Together, they went to the elders of Israel and performed the signs. The people believed. They worshipped. Hope was beginning to rise. Moses was no longer just a shepherd. He was now the chosen leader of a nation and the voice of God to Pharaoh himself. When God calls, nothing else matters. So what does Moses' journey teach us? That your beginning doesn't define your destiny. That God sees you even in the desert seasons. That your flaws don't cancel out your calling. Moses was hidden, raised in privilege, shattered by failure, and shaped in obscurity, before he was called to greatness. And when he finally said yes, God did the rest. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be willing. Because when God says go, the most powerful thing you can say is, "Here I am." Thanks for watching. If this story encouraged you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that it's never too late to step into your purpose. And join us next time as we continue the journey of Moses into Pharaoh's court, through the plagues and toward freedom. Until then, remember, even in the wilderness, God is calling. What do you think about the man Moses? Drop a comment below.